Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, straight up conversations with me, Moshe Popack. This week, the evolution of the TV and film industry, and do people still crave the movie theater experience? My guest is Sandy Lighterman, the Miami-Dade Film and Entertainment Commissioner. Sandy has played an integral role in spearheading some of the biggest TV and film projects in South Florida. Hi, Sandy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Moshe. Thanks for having me.
So I'm always super excited, and now we're going into the holidays and movie season.
Yeah.
Is there any movies that you're looking forward to see?
Yes, actually there is, but I haven't had a chance to see it. I want to see the new Bond movie. I really want to go see the Bond movie. I love Bond. So I have not had a chance, travel, work, all of that. But hopefully, as the holidays come up, I'm going to have a moment to get to the movies.
So I'm not gonna spoil the ending. I took the kids maybe 6 weeks ago.
Don't spoil the ending.
So I don't know if you remember the film Usual Suspects.
Yes.
And that was a great film. And as I was walking into the theater, some people just ruined the ending for me. So I'm not going to do that for you. So I know in general also, obviously COVID past 18, 19 months. And I think I was reading that it was about $5 billion of revenue lost nationwide. Do you think that we're going to hit our stride and we're going to get back to kind of normal attendance in the theaters?
I think that things are going to take time. I think that, right now there is a shift, and there was a shift with COVID, and everybody obviously was home, and they were, they're watching everything on streaming, and they've gotten comfortable with that. But there's going to be a point where, and it might not be, in the next year. It could be a couple of years away. It could be 2 years away. I think that going back to the theater is going to be something. It'll be different. It'll be a different experience. It's either going to be very big tentpole productions, or it's going to be, independent film, art, like art houses. I think that's going to be the sort of the range of it. I still think that there's room in the future. I still think we will go back to the theater because, we are social animals. We like to actually share our experience with others. Yeah. And after the novelty of watching, and this is my opinion, of course, the novelty of watching everything at home, will get boring at some point. That the novelty, it'll become a novelty to then go back to the theater.
Right. I know me personally and my kids, we still enjoy going to the theaters, and and I do agree with you. I think we're gonna get back to that, but it will be a change. I think there'll definitely be a change. And how much do you think? Obviously, we're coming out, not just Netflix, but Amazon, Hulu, all these different streaming services. How much do you think that that's gonna affect movie theaters in the long run?
Well, it actually already has affected it. But what's happening is, I think they're still trying to figure out the right formula of releasing in the movies and then coming in and showing it on streaming. They've tried to do it, at the same time. That doesn't work because then most people are then just, at home. So that hasn't worked. I think they're still trying to figure it out. But I think, Hollywood's pretty smart. They'll figure out the right formula to make it, financially viable. And also, a good experience for obviously, the audience. But I think it's a balance, and they haven't found it yet.
Yeah, and I saw just came out Red Notice, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes,
right.
Which was, by the way, was supposed to be shot in Miami-Dade County. Part of it. It was one of those, and of course, it did not.
Which we'll get into soon. Exactly, which we'll get into soon. But I did not see the film, but I did see where Dwayne Johnson says that it's only been, I guess, a couple days since the film came out streaming, and I think it was about 150 million hours. Number one streaming film in all of Netflix, and I think the budget was something like 200 million.
Yeah, it was. It was a very high budget, and one of those, we don't want to give it away, but one of the places that they went to was Miami. And that was in the original script, but that was written out.
So I know that's right. We'll talk about that in
Yeah,
Florida.
I know.
I know you're here in Miami-Dade. and my favorite city in the world, and I would love to see more TV and film production here as well. I'm definitely aligned with that. What do you, what film or TV production are you the most proud of that was shot here in Miami?
Good news. Wow, there's so many. I mean, if you're going to go back a few years, if you go back to when we had a state incentive, Magic City, the TV series, and Graceland, the couple of TV series we had here, Ballers, that was here. I mean, all of those, I was proud of every one. Even believe it or not, Step Up for Revolution. That was actually an amazing feat with those dancers, because I saw it on set, and it did really well in the box office. So, and there's so many more that actually happened. I mean, Marley and Me, I could keep going, so I can't find one that I'm, I think I'm proud of all of them, some of them, and proud of them coming here, proud of what we were able to accomplish, to make them happen. Right. And to bring them here. There's it's multi-level.
See, logically for me, I'm thinking Florida and more so Miami. There should be a ton of production, TV and film production. So tell us a little bit about what's kind of going on, because I know back in 2006 I was reading Florida was number 3 in production. I think now it's number 16.
Oh no, I think it's further down than that.
Maybe even further down.
I will say that, unfortunately, it's further down than that. So if you want to go back to 2006, we had an incentive program from 2004 to 2010 that was a rebate program that brought in a lot of production. Of course, we had a program because we were competing with not only California, Louisiana, that had programs, but also what started it was Canada, that actually had the programs that originally stole production from California. That is actually where it started, where incentive programs became the norm. So then, go to 2010, it was passed in the legislature, almost $300 million, over 5-year, program, a tax credit program that was extremely successful. In fact, almost too successful, because the minute it was announced and when on July 1st, when it came into action, almost all the money was gone, like it could have been gone in 1 second. I mean, that's how many applications that were applied for.
So let's say a production company comes in to a state which has tax incentives. What does that benefit look like?
Okay, well, let me tell you what the benefit looks like in Florida, and then the benefit in other states is different, because we've always been conservative in the state of Florida. So when a production comes in, and let's say they're shooting, $100 million film, right? And I'm just going to make it general. So there's a certain percentage that is then, after the production has to come in and spend the money. After the production has spent all their money, then there is either a tax credit, which is, I can explain what that is, or a rebate. And that is a certain percentage, but only on Florida residents and Florida expenditures. So what's happening is that it's actually, that incentive is actually requiring a certain amount of hires to be done, in the state, being Florida residents, certain amount of vendors, all of that kind of thing. So it's being spent locally, and that rebate or tax credit goes back to the production afterwards. And that actually, since this has become, part of the model of Hollywood, actually, incentives are the model. It's not just in the United States, it's a worldwide. But we're the only state in the Southeast. If you wrap around the Southeast all the way going down to the bottom, it does not, actually, to Texas, beyond, it does not have an incentive program. So that's where makes us not be able to compete on the level that the other states have.
I want to ask you what happened on the set of the Alec Baldwin film Rust and get your take on it. But first, I just want to remind our listeners, this is the Common Denominator podcast, and my guest is Sandy Lighterman, the Film and Entertainment Commissioner for the Miami-Dade County Office of Film and Entertainment. If you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'd be grateful for any 5-star ratings. Plus, we'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback about the show, send us your comments on Twitter at @mpopack. Now, back to the show. I know you were probably shocked, just like myself, just shifting to what happened in October with Alec Baldwin on the set of Rust. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, never. And I was a producer for quite a many years, 25 plus years, and no, I never. I personally have never experienced that. Have dealt with faux weapons. Never had live weapons on a set. So that's interesting. And always a police officer with when you're utilizing weapons. But what happened in Rust is just it's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. I can't even imagine having to deal with that, whether seeing it or being a part of it.
Right. I couldn't understand why there were live weapons. I know even just the basics when you're training with firearms, there's so many general safety precautions. Yes. And you never, ever, ever point a gun, whether live or not, at another person.
Right, it's true. And, just to be clear, on a normal, even with faux weapons on set, there's like a 5, and I don't remember all of them, so forgive me, but there's 5 levels that you have to go through, that's process. And that is, the armorer checks the guns, and then it goes to process, the assistant director checks the gun. The assistant director, actually goes with the armorer to the talent and talks to them about the weapon. I mean, it is a process that should happen every single time, whether that they've used one weapon on the set or 100 weapons on the set. And that is a process that obviously wasn't followed on that set.
So in other words, I guess moving forward for you, you would advise never to use live weapons.
I believe you should not have live weapons on a set. You should have either ones that fire blanks, and even that can actually hurt you, by the way. Firing blanks can hurt you. And truthfully, you don't need it with post-production as good as it is. I believe you don't need to have, you don't have to have live weapons on set. And that's my opinion. I will tell you that Miami-Dade Transit has already said that there could be no faux weapons or live, anything with the film industry with weapons on transit because of what happened on Rust.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know I'm seeing the speed up of technology. And how are you seeing that? We talk about kind of post-production. I'm hearing crazy ideas of basically you can create a whole worlds without even in studio, on sound stages, without ever having to even go to different sites. What are you seeing is happening with technology in reference to TV and movie production?
Well, that's actually already here. So those are LED walls, and they're already here. There's actually a couple in the state of Florida. So I'm a purist, right? I come from, old school, and I do feel that, me personally, I mean, technology is great, and I think that the technology is amazing and it should be utilized. But, there's this certain aesthetic of being in that location, and that, character wise and story wise and all of that, it affects acting. It affects the final product, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But I do see, a lot more of that happening. I see that, it's almost like it kind of correlates with the streaming and watching at home, not leaving a studio and having, what I'm saying, having all the background shot. That means that they just go and they do what we call plate shots. And then they put that in the background. Technology has gotten so good that it looks real. I mean, a Mandalorian has been shot that way, right? The Mandalorian, right? So, and creating other worlds is easy, too, with that kind of technology. But I think that as we've seen with technology, it becomes the next best thing. Remember 3D?
Sure.
How, right now, but there's a difference. This makes things more cost effective when it comes to, shooting, on an LED screen, not leaving the studio, not having to travel. But, I think that, again, that this will be the new thing. Just like theaters, it's going to actually eventually come back to where they'll shoot on location, because it'll affect the outcome of what that film is.
Right. I'm sure, like you
That's
said,
my
the
opinion.
actors, I think the actors, it'll be harder for them to give
Yes.
that level unless
A
they're on
performance.
site, that level of performance.
I absolutely agree with you. It definitely, I believe it affects level of performance.
And I think in general, I know the films that maybe it dates me a little bit, but 20 years ago, films, even more independent films, or there seems to be like this financial, exact, rigorous business plan. You're going to have your Spider-Mans and your Supermans, Batman, the big films
Right.
that are being produced, and all those I call them better, independent, interesting films seems to be a lot less. But I wish there was more of that.
Well, interestingly, so with streaming, those independent films are getting made. You just have to find them on whatever streaming platform. That's the truth.
Right.
They are getting made because everybody's watching streaming, so they need more content. That this is a great time for producing content and for production, because the more things are watched, the more that they need to produce more content because people have watched it. During the pandemic, didn't you hear? I've watched everything on Netflix. I have. There's nothing left. So it's a great time for actually independent film to be able to get the products out there. They might not make the money that they, on the financial model of that they would have with the theatrical release. There's also, obviously there's been, issues when it comes to independence and no theatrical release and getting an, Academy Award, nomination and qualifying and all of that. But if you want to get your movie made now is the time, to make it happen, because just we need, the industry needs content.
So, Sandy, I know you've been on a lot of different film and TV sets, and the audience probably has not. What is that energy like?
It's a good question. So a film set is like a very well-oiled machine with a lot of people. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of employees. There's a lot of personnel, because it takes more than a village to make, a film or TV series. Every department, multiple people in those departments. So the energy on set is always hectic because they're trying to make, there's a certain amount of time that they have to get in their day. They have to make their day. Otherwise, then, they lose money, right? Then their, time is money. So it's very hectic, but also it can be very boring. Our famous saying in the industry is hurry up to wait. And that's exactly what it is, because you get all ready and then, oh no, the lighting is wrong. So they have to redo all the lighting, or the camera angle is wrong and they have to, move cameras, and because they have to get it perfect, because what you see is what they, and again, time is money. So everything moves around as quickly as it can, but they get it done.
So since you've been on many, many sets and been doing this a little while, when you're watching a TV or a movie, can you actually enjoy it, or is it you're just sitting there picking out all the issues?
I used to sit and pick out all the issues, right? I really did. And then it wasn't enjoyable. And then I literally had to say to myself, okay, I need to stop doing that, because, I see a microphone here, or I see, oh no, that was, in the last shot, they didn't have that in their hand. So I decided and made a conscious decision to not do that, so that I could enjoy the movie, because, I want to enjoy a story just as much as anybody else. And I can't let my brain get it into, saying something is wrong. I have to get into the story. But yeah, I used to do that a lot. You didn't want to sit next to me in a movie theater.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us. How could people find out more about the work you're doing here in Miami-Dade County?
Absolutely easy. They can go to our website, which is filmmiami.org, and that's with one M, so FILMIAMI.org. And we actually have, it's a plethora of information about what's shooting here, about locations, about news and events that are happening locally in the film and entertainment industry.
Well, thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Common Denominator podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring, impactful, and empowering conversation. To learn more about Moshe, head to MoshePopack.com. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. And we'd be grateful if you could rate, review, and subscribe to the show.